You're probably wondering, why did Bitcoin just crash from 98K to 92K overnight during a holiday weekend while the markets were closed? Well, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. The dump might have less to do with Bitcoin itself and entirely to do with Trump's new tariff war that he just started this weekend. I got a lot to break down, so let's just dive straight into it. All right, guys. Again, we're all aware, Bitcoin nuked. And I see a lot of people like, oh, it's over. We're seeing what's happened in the precious markets. What's going on? Are we done for? Are we in a bear market? Well, I don't know. I am still feeling a little bullish, guys. I know, contrarian view. I am a perpetual bull, but it really does seem like it's really more the macro landscape that is affecting Bitcoin. And as everyone knows, the last time we had a tariff trade war coming from Trump, it was the last two drops, October 10th and the November 6th. Wait, was it November 16th drop? I think that was the day. I'm forgetting. It might be 6th or 16th. I'm blanking right here. Anyways, let's get into all the stuff that Trump's doing. So again, guys, look, I've been saying this for a while, and I did get some flack from you guys in the chat, but from my perspective, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in the markets, you have to kind of take Trump's words at face value. Even Scott Bessent came out. I saw a report this morning, already more of a soundbite, and he's like, look, take Trump at his word. And so I think the markets are doing exactly that. But considering that we have a financial holiday, today is Martin Luther King Day, the markets are closed until tonight. I think the market might be able to digest this information, but the Trump trade war, tariff war game plan is playing out exactly as they kind of have designed this. And so here we go. This is where it all starts, is Trump on True Social. And of course, this is all around the Greenland, acquiring Greenland for America, the strategic importance of Greenland. I know a lot of people that aren't totally familiar with what is this move about. Is this just Trump being kind of, a dictator? He's just like, oh, we're going to take all the things. We're going to make America great by literally taking all of the Americas, the entire Western Hemisphere. But there is a strategic significance to taking Greenland. There is a historical precedent as well. There's been a lot of talks for a long time of the U.S. acquiring Greenland. And you really got to kind of view this in light of the whole Russia-China stuff. Now, for a lot of people, maybe not aware, they're like, what does Greenland have to do with China or Russia? Well, one thing, China's been trying to get a foothold in Greenland. And then also, when you consider we are in a, let me see, am I past the 2 minutes? We are in, in a nuclear scenario. And historically, kind of the game planning, the war planning of how that might break down if there were a case where we went into a nuclear world war. Well, Russia would essentially, would send missiles straight over Greenland into the U.S. And so therefore having something in the middle to basically, as Trump's been talking about, this golden dome, essentially view and monitor where these missiles are coming. You want to see them happen earlier than later. Therefore, I think this is the strategic importance of Greenland on a national security level. Anyways, that's just like background, game planning, war planning, and all that stuff. Here is the tweet that really, I think, caused everything. I think anyone that is understanding what's going on understands that everything we're seeing in the markets right now is all about the tariffs that Trump is implementing. Anyways, I'm not going to read the whole True Social point, but Trump goes, and this was the 17th at basically noon. He goes, we have subsidized Denmark and all of the countries of the European Union and others for many years by not charging them tariffs. Now, after centuries, it's time for Denmark to give back. World peace is at stake. China and Russia want Greenland, and there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it. So this is what we're seeing. On top of everything else, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland have journeyed to Greenland for purposes unknown. Now, going further, this is where Trump starts talking about the new tariffs that we are imposing, or at least supposedly imposing. And this is the game plan. Trump essentially announcing some tariffs. He gives a future timeline. So we could either come to the negotiating table, which is, I think, what they want to do, and then the tariffs are off. Hence why there was so much volatility last year. Hence why I believe, if I remember correctly, at some point last week, I was like, guys, do not be surprised if there's heightened volatility in the markets because of all the stuff you're seeing on the world stage. Anyways, we go here on June. Wait. Where's the part where they say it? So starting on February 1st, 2026, all of the above mentioned countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, Netherlands, and Finland will be charged a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. So this is the initial kind of baseline, you could say, threat. We're going to tariff all of these countries 10%. Whether you like it or not, they're forcing them to the negotiation table because America is very serious, or rather, maybe Trump is very serious about acquiring Greenland for the war planning that I mentioned at the very beginning of the show. Now, this is where things start to get, I guess, more tense. This is where I think most of the confusions happen. This is why I believe the markets have melted down. Not all the markets, though. May I, point that out. We are seeing precious metals do the exact opposite of Bitcoin, and a lot of people are saying this could be a bearish case for Bitcoin. Again, maybe it's I'm a rose-colored lenses person, but to me, I think it's telling us a little more of a bullish signal. But here's the headline from Bloomberg this morning. The EU grapples with the response to Trump's Greenland tariff threat, though they did launch this yesterday on the 18th, later on at night, and Trump responded to this, or wait, yeah, here we go. Here's Kobayashi letter. You guys know I absolutely love their reporting on Twitter. And we got breaking. President Trump says NATO has been telling Denmark to, quote, get the Russian threat away from Greenland. Quote, now it's time and it will be done. And here is where I think we saw most of the markets happen late last night. Again, it was at Sunday night. A lot of Bitcoiners are like, who is selling Bitcoin at Sunday night? The markets are closed. Like, what is going on? I think it was all in response to this tweet. NATO has been telling Denmark for 20 years they have to get the Russian threat away from Greenland. Unfortunately, Denmark has been unable to do anything about it. Now it's time and it will be done. So he doubled down on the threat. He basically said, look, we're going to tariff the EU, or a lot of countries in the EU. The markets and really the leaders had no real idea how to respond to this. They're grappling. Some are okay with it, or rather maybe not okay with it, but they're like, all right, we're not going to retaliate too hard. Others are like, we're going to retaliate. And then Trump doubles down on it. And I think this is where we saw the markets kind of have some turmoil. And I think the timing is really the most important aspect of this. Now, there has been some responses from China as well. Kobayashi letter has been covering this. They did a press conference saying that, President Trump can't be using China as an scapegoat anymore. They got to basically be honest and transparent about their, quote, selfish interests, which, from my perspective, I think he's been very kind of transparent, at least on the last acquisition, and I think they're being transparent with this Greenland one as well. Now, another interesting aspect of this is we saw Scott Bessent go on Fox News, and this was brought to our attention yesterday. And he basically laid down exactly what the Trump administration wants to do. I'm not going to play the whole clip. It was a 24-minute clip on Fox News, but this is a basic, good little layout, little summary of it. And it goes, Bessent lays out with unusual clarity Trump's economic agenda, running the economy hot, which I've been telling you guys is going to happen. Yes, we got some volatility, but they've been very transparent. They're going to run the economy extremely hot. Second, tariffs will become a strategic norm, as we saw in 2025, as we're seeing in the beginning of 2026. Again, expect probably more heightened volatility. Part of me is like, hey, at least Bitcoin's not a stable coin. Obviously, I wanted to pump upwards, not downwards. Anyways, the economy must be reprivatized. Growth must outrun debt, and the Fed must be overhauled. Now, an interesting aspect on that last point, Reuters reported this morning, or rather, it was yesterday. Here's the headline. Oh, sorry, I refreshed it. Here's the headline. Wait, where'd we go? Okay. Actually, this was Friday, sorry. And it goes, Trump tells Hassett he may want to keep him at the White House. Remember, Kevin Hassett has been one of the favorites for the Fed chair. He is tentatively pro-Bitcoin, and we also know he wants to do exactly what Trump wants, which is lower interest rates, run the economy hot, He's basically Trump that's what I mean by he wants to pack the Fed board with people that are aligning with agenda. Now, in here is an interesting little tidbit, which does make you think that a lot of the things we are seeing is theater. It's political, economic theater. I think Trump is just doing literally the art of the deal stuff in real time. And it was really kind of, I think, maybe lost. Oh, did it not highlight this morning? Wow. Okay. Anyways, let me try to refind it because I had it highlighted here, but I guess it got lost when I refreshed this. Hold on one second. Okay, here we go. This is like the big kahuna here, which even when I was telling Luke this morning, he's like, no, Trump did not say that. As you know, there's been a saga coming out of Trump versus the Fed. The Treasury versus the Fed, or Trump administration versus the Fed. And over the weekend, we heard that, quote, Trump said in a Reuters interview on Wednesday that he has no plan to fire Powell from the Fed. And he's saying, hey, the both of the Kevins that are in the running right now are probably good choices for the next Fed chair. So there you see a lot of key fob, a lot of political maneuvering, a lot of art of the deal stuff is playing out. But as we can hear from Scott Bessent, the game plan seems to me, at least from my perspective, pretty clear. Now, you're probably like, okay, all right, so Bitcoin is melting down because we're in another trade war. Like, does that really paint the picture for what's going on? I think it really does. And here's Lynn Alden's kind of take on that tweet. Agent Smith from the Matrix. Do you hear that? It is the sound of inevitability. Of course, they cannot stop the train. Or this, I forget whatever quote is, guys. But you know what I'm saying. Anyways, here is kind of the headline surrounding the Bitcoin price, which I don't fundamentally agree with the framing, but I'll make my case afterwards. Here is the headlines, which is Bitcoin just failed its biggest digital gold test, and the reason why should have every investor deeply worried. Despite prominent sell-off, long-term projections still hold firm. Of course, they're talking about the US-EU tariff war. We saw immediate price volatility in Bitcoin over the weekend. Literally, the markets are still closed. They're going to open later today. So maybe the markets and investors will have time to digest this information. Could be that the sell-off we saw was, where we're going to be. The other side of me is like, I would maybe expect more volatility tomorrow from my chart bowling, my TA, my magic lines. Bitcoin held up really good, even though we saw a significant movement on tariff news or a new trade war playing out. But this is kind of the narrative being played out right now. Again, as I started the show, it has a lot less to do with Bitcoin, though we did see $585 million liquidated overnight. So yes, the liquidation, the leverage is still getting cleared out of the markets. But in reality, from what I'm seeing, this has way more to do with the tariff wars. And we saw what happened in the past last year. Every time Trump announced a tariff war, we saw a lot of heightened volatility. Bitcoin long-term reacted very well. Again, people could say Bitcoin failed, the strongest test ever. I do have another CoinDesk article here, which essentially says the same thing. It goes, Bitcoin slips below key support as tariff talk rattles crypto. Fell alongside global equities after reports the EU is preparing retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. This is, I think, the prevailing narrative, the prevailing sentiment going on in the world right now. Trump is out here like a cowboy, calling tariffs, calling them off. We've just entered an even more uncertain time right now in terms of what is actually going on in the world. But I think if you're listening to what Scott Bessent or even Trump himself is saying, they've been, I would argue, pretty transparent on what they're going to do. The problem is most people aren't taking Trump at his word. Now, I know some people are like, Trump's a liar. I would maybe argue like Trump is telling you exactly what he wants to do. Now, the bigger question is he going to actually be able to do that? Which is kind of becoming my prevailing sentiment for 2025. We know what they want to do. It seems like they still have a lot of time or a lot of trouble implementing all the stuff they want to do. And this is kind of why there's been so much uncertainty in the markets, though they're coming out of the gate pretty strong in 2026. if they're able to do something similar like they did in Venezuela, Greenland might be acquired by the U.S. coming very shortly. So that's like the prevailing sentiment here. Though, shouts out to Nick Bhatia, though I'm not going to lie, I don't know where he got this trend line from, but I love the tweet. Give me some hopium, Nick. He goes, Bitcoin narrowly holds its 2-year trend line. I tried to fit my charts with a 2-year trend line, and I'm like, I don't know where. Look, when I fit them, when I retroactively fit my lines, I don't see the 2-year trend line. But hey, I'll take Nick Bhatia's word for this. You know, he's a little more experienced. He's been in the trenches a lot more than me, and so you can take this. You can take this tweet as gospel here. Here's kind of what I'm seeing on my charts. I know you guys, some of you guys like my chart bowling. Some of you are like Opti. It's just tea leaves. You're just tea leaf reading, all right? But here's what I saw. This is what I see happening currently. I had to move my 2-year trend line because the last, drop around October, November completely nuked my trend line. So I started a new one a couple of weeks ago, and it's basically at the start of this year. And Bitcoin kissed it perfectly, held up with the 50-day moving average as well. So on that front, it's like, hey, all right. Like, yeah, we got a little pullback, a little volatility in the markets, but it is being held up right now. It could have been worse. Now, tonight could be worse. Tomorrow could be worse. Again, this is a holiday right now. Markets are closed until later today, and we could see more volatility in the markets. But what is really, really interesting here, and I think this is probably where I get a more like I said, rosy red glasses take on what's going on, and it's what's happening in the precious metals. Now, I know a lot of Bitcoiners look at what gold's doing and they think it's a zero-sum game. They're like, oh, gold's taking all of the attention away from Bitcoin. As you can see, gold ripped. As Bitcoin dumped, gold ripped. And then further, silver is absolutely exploding as well. It started to break out out of its kind of decline. It's at all-time highs. Some people are saying that in China, gold is already above $100 per ounce. Anyways, what could be my takeaway here, the bullish takeaway, which I think is I think this is summing up the perspective of investors currently. And as I've said for a long time, Bitcoin and gold are essentially, it's like grandpa and nephew. We are both in the hard money game. Now, I do think that Bitcoin is harder, obviously, by the current inflation rate. I think Bitcoin is a better investment. But what most people still, I don't think fully have grasped is that, yes, Bitcoin is still a new technology. Bitcoin is still being tested. It's still earning its keep. And most investors right now, in the face of all this uncertainty, in the face of all the things going on the macro landscape, they're moving into first the hard money trades that they are more comfortable with, which is, of course, gold. And then when you look at gold, usually if you're a gold bug, you're kind of a precious metal bug, which is why I think we're seeing silver also run. But I think gold and silver are telling us a lot about what's going on in the markets in general, and also how people are viewing this trade right now. People want hard assets. Now, do I think that gold running is taken away from Bitcoin? Though you could literally see it was an inverse correlation over the weekend. Gold pump, Bitcoin dump. So this is why the CoinDesk headline is essentially saying, or the other headline is like Bitcoin failed its biggest test as digital gold. I'm viewing this a little differently. Obviously, I'm always silver lining. I'm always a bull tard. I'm always optimistic on the price movement. But I think this is telling us that the hard money trade is the trade currently. That's the move that most people are doing. That's the move that people want to do, or rather need to do right now. You need to move into hard assets because the agenda is very clear here. They're going to run the economy hot. Translated, they're going to expand the money supply. Again, translated one more time, they're going to print. Money printer's going to go burr. Liquidity's coming back on the table. Again, QT's over. We're not necessarily in QE, but we're in QE. So I think the signal is on the wall. Everyone is viewing what's going on in the economy. They're kind of looking at Trump like he's a wild cannon. One week we're going to get trade tariffs. Next week they're going to be off. And then who knows, in a month or two, we might be back on again. But you're seeing a monetary reordering happen in real time. There is a monetary reshifting happening right now. And if you're not in hard assets, you are really going to be left in the dust. Now, gold and silver, again, is what people are more comfortable with currently. That's just the trade that they want to make. But I think we are starting to see, or rather will start to see, that liquidity go further on the risk asset, tail end, which is Bitcoin. I like to view Bitcoin as it's the final trade. It's what you do when you finally exhaust everything else and you realize Bitcoin is just waiting at the finish line. So I think seeing gold move, seeing silver move currently, I think this is the signal of what we are seeing. Hard money trades are the trade of 2026. We're probably going to get a lot of volatility from Trump and tariff scares or tariff concerns. We really don't know. Trump could wake up on the wrong side of bed and be like, all right, we're slapping more tariffs on today. But then he wakes up the next day and he's like, actually, we're taking it off. Again, I think this is art of the deal stuff going on. He basically comes with a very aggressive move, lets the market kind of deal with the aftermath. And then through all the chaos, he comes back and does basically a less aggressive move and gets exactly what he wants. It's almost like a Hegelian dialectic. You say you want this so that you can negotiate what you actually want. And because you went so extreme, your real ass doesn't seem that extreme. This seems to be what's playing out, though, again, taking Trump at his word. I think he really wants Greenland. Okay. So I think that's kind of what's going on. All of the volatility in the markets are happening right now because of this new trade tariff deal. Now, it is interesting, the timing. The timing is probably the most interesting. It is a long weekend, holiday weekend in the markets. The market hopefully has enough time to digest this information. Trump does this at on the weekend on a Saturday, responds again at night on a Sunday. The markets absolutely tank Sunday night or Monday morning. Now we're all kind of dealing. We literally wake up from Sunday and we're just dealing with the dust settling. We're like, what happened last night? As far as I knew, Bitcoin was around 95K or something like that. Well, we wake up, new trade deal, more volatility in the market. Now we have to deal with it. So do I think today we'll see volatility? That's kind of my bearish case. I think we are potentially going to see some more volatility in the markets. Again, my magic lines, my 50-day moving average, my yearly trend line, those are holding on. Do I really hold that much weight in them continuing to hold on? They've held on pretty strong so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if we crater a little more tomorrow. But this is all happening because of this new tariff trade war. I don't think this has anything to do with Bitcoin. This is just what's going on in the macro landscape, the global economy. This is what is playing out right now. And the other interesting aspect, which I've been saying for a while, is Bitcoin is now, I think, legitimately, maybe it's not the biggest player. Maybe it's the newest guy in the room, the newest guy at the table. But with all of we saw last year, with all the institutions coming into Bitcoin, with Trump basically going, we're going to be Bitcoin superpower of the world. Bitcoin is now very clearly a macro asset. Hence, for the first 15, 16 years, you could argue that Bitcoin didn't care what happened on the macro economy. It was being driven by a 4-year cycle. Now, as we mature, I think Bitcoin will react to a lot of macro factors. Hence why on a new trade war, new tariff, scare going on, Bitcoin is reacting very strong to this. Again, Bitcoin is 24/7, the most saleable good. And therefore, when people get scared, they react to it. And this does go into the fact that we have a new investor in the market. It's the institutions. The institutions read these headlines. They see this news. And they're like, man, I need to position myself correctly. I need to position myself safely, which I think is what we saw with the inverse of gold and Bitcoin. People got shaken out. They're like, look, the last 2 times we had tariff trade wars going on, Bitcoin nuke. It could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So they're getting into gold. Gold and silver ripping right now. It's gold and silver's time right now. Bitcoin, I think, will react very well against this whole backdrop. But in the short term, Bitcoin is farther on the risk appetite. But eventually, the risk appetite will lead to Bitcoin. So that is my take on what's going on today, guys. That it's all because of this trade war. Trump announced 10% tariffs on EU. There is a battle right now with Trump administration versus the EU, or as Tom Luongo usually says, the Trump administration versus the Davos globalist crowd, which, again, the timing is very interesting. If you're unaware, this week is Davos. Trump announced this, peace board, world peace board. He announced his tariff on Greenland on a holiday weekend right before he's supposedly going to go to Davos this weekend and announce what he wants to do. The timing is, I think, the signal on what's going on. Once you know the tariff playbook, then you see it for what it is. And then the timing of going to Davos this week, I think that is telling us all the news you need to know. So we're going to get some interesting stuff coming out of Davos this week. I'm guessing we're going to get a lot of news coming out of Davos. I think everyone is starting to head over there to Davos. It's going to be a very interesting week. We might be in for a lot of volatility this week. So I would buckle up. I would look at Bitcoin right now. If we do get a more of a price crash, I would look at it as I always do. It's a discount on Bitcoin. If you like it at all-time high, you're going to like it on discount. But just be prepared for some volatility this week. I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of like the expectation, I would say. Increased volatility right now, especially that we have Davos playing out this week. We're going to see what they're trying to lay out. It's going to be a very interesting week for us, guys. And as I was saying this morning, when I was preparing with Luke, I was like, I know a lot of people are bearish right now. I know there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. But from my perspective, this is very interesting. I think this is some of like the most interesting times to be alive right now. It is all playing out right now. We all get to be on the front row watching what's happening. We all basically got to be chilling at the finish line, sipping a water, sipping our Gatorade and electrolytes. And we get to watch how this plays out. We're in the winning trade. Yes, Bitcoin hasn't gone up. Yes, Bitcoin is still acting very volatile. But we know where the end goal ultimately ends up, and that is in Bitcoin. So the world is digesting all this information, but you guys are just stacking Bitcoin and chilling. You guys are in the right position. We're just early. And when you are early to a trade, it does feel like you are wrong. But I think Bitcoin is the final thing that you trade for. Bitcoin is where you park your money. Bitcoin is where you park your wealth. It's just going to take everyone a little while to catch up, especially if you're part of the financial status quo. You're still kind of skeptical of Bitcoin. You move into the things that you're most comfortable with, and that's playing out exactly as designed right now. So that would be my analysis of what is going on. I think, it's the most interesting time on the macro world stage of what's going on. Simon Dixon would say that essentially we are entering from a unilateral world, the U.S. kind of controlling everything, to a more multipolar world. Also, if you guys watch the Dixie corrected last night as well, or it's been correcting. And so you're starting to see that this is what they want to do. They want to lower interest rates. And even though they, quote, are America first and make America great, they are actively destroying the purchasing power of the dollar. We are entering a multipolar world. Now, who can position themselves so that they can still maintain a superpower type role? After the end of the Cold War, the U.S. really took the head spot. Now it seems like we might be moving back into a multipolar world, whether that's with the U.S., China, and Russia. We still have yet to see. There could be backroom deals that none of us are privy to the conversation right now. Maybe the U.S. will get Greenland. Maybe China is negotiating for Taiwan. Maybe Russia is going to get Ukraine. This is all of the things you should be kind of paying attention to. But this week, I think we'll get a lot more information. Maybe some more clarity, but definitely more volatility in the market. So that's my take going on right now. Yeah. Hard Hotto gets it. Hard Huddle gets it. I've been telling you we're going to be winners in 2026. One day I'll be right. Okay. Anyways, I do have some interesting news. So as I was covering last week, it looked like the market structure bill was DOA because Coinbase pulled back. Now we're getting some clips and some back talk from Brian Armstrong about this. So we'll be covering that. And then after, our Friday show, we did get an update on the DOJ U.S. State Marshals or the U.S. Marshals on the Samurai Wallet Bitcoin. And then we do have CoinDad coming in live from the studio on the mining museum. So he's going to come in around 1:30 or maybe in like 10-20 minutes. He'll be in here live in the studio. So that's the recap for today's show. On that note, let's keep the show moving.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, guys, we are back, and the current Bitcoin price is $93,050. I repeat, 93050. The discount from all-time high is 26.3%. The market cap is back to 1.86 trillion, and the block height, TikTok next block, is 932,974. Okay, guys, so as we've been covering, a very interesting saga played out with the market structure bill over the weekend, or rather before the weekend, and we got an update on this. So if you weren't watching the show last week, or maybe you didn't watch the whole show, we got news or got wind of that the market structure bill was basically over because Coinbase pulled out. Coinbase read the bill and they're like, hey, we can't support all of this stuff. The funniest one for me was like not enough shit coining in the bill for Coinbase to support it. That was a little bit of trolling. Brian Armstrong did do his own kind of breakdown of what it was. But here we got a new update from Brian Armstrong. This is kind of the latest wrinkle in this saga. I will play it for you and then I'll kind of show you a back and forth on Twitter.
Got the Genius Act passed into law, which actually did enable stablecoin rewards to happen. The banks had their own concerns, and we reached a good outcome in the Genius Act. And now the banks really are coming and trying to undermine the president's crypto agenda. I mean, these are the same banks that debanked him and his family, right? And they want to come in and say that Americans should not be able to actually earn more money on their money. They're trying to protect their own profit margins, taking money out of the pockets of hardworking average Americans and putting it into the coffers of these big banks that are hitting record profits. And so our view is that there should be a level playing field where banks and crypto companies can lean into stablecoin legislation as an opportunity, and that includes paying rewards to Americans so that they can earn more money on their money.
So you heard Brian, this was on, I'm blanking, I think it was Fox News. The biggest contention was the stablecoin yield question. And essentially, the banks are trying to protect their moat. Anyways, on the tweet that we covered last week, we got Eleanor Terrett. She said, Scoop, Coinbase is pulling out of this bill. It's basically DOA. Here's Brian Armstrong's response to this. And he goes, in general, love your post, but this is not accurate. The White House has been super constructive here. They did ask us to see if we can go figure out a deal with the banks, which we're currently working on. Actually, we've been cooking up some good ideas on how we can help the community banks. The community banks specifically in this bill, since that's what this is about, the community banks, right? More coming soon. Again, this is a war of the incumbents versus the new kid on the block. And we're actually seeing some very interesting clips and headlines come out. In particular, I saw one from the Uber CEO saying that stablecoins are very interesting to them because it saves them on fees. So stable coins are the big concern right now for these banks, which is very interesting considering we got the Genius Act pushed through specifically because of stable coins. Now the Clarity Act is having some issues over stable coin yield, over who actually gets the profits from this. And this is kind of where we are. Then Eleanor Terrett, again, she's been doing incredible work. She doubles down. She goes, my reporting was airtight and accurate. You also just cited the central point of my story as correct, that the White House asked Coinbase to go secure a deal on yield. My reporting is that White House support now appears to be contingent on that outcome. So as Nico, he's more of the political analyst. He's like, yo, it's over for. It looks like I don't know. I saw other tweets and headlines are coming back to the table to talk about this, to try to push something through. Though I've been on the side of I'd rather probably have zero bill than a monstrosity of a bill. As much as I am kind of on the perspective of regulatory clarity might help the industry, I'm okay with them, supporting us. I'm also very concerned about overregulation, which is usually what we've been seeing. But again, the Trump administration, Scott Bessent, they've been very adamant about the fact that they're pushing for deregulation. Now, from what I saw of this market structure, markup bill, it was horrible. It was atrocious. It would have hurt our industry way more than if we have nothing on the table. So it looks like things maybe are getting rebooted. That's kind of where we are right now. Brian Armstrong, who for all intents and purposes was the very reason for this to kind of end up DOA. He's kind of like, hey, we're talking with the banks. We might be working something out. Though, shouts out to Lola Leitz. I'm kind of on Lola Leitz's side on this one. She's quote tweeting all this, and she goes, here's how this is going to go. The Dems are going to let Coinbase have their yield, and in return, they'll get whatever they want on illicit finance, because getting rich will always be more important to these people than being free. And she doubles down and goes, the next market structure bill will likely be a nightmare for your privacy. Here's to hoping that the standalone BRCA gets passed quickly so we can collectively tell these assholes where to shove it when the next draft comes around. I'm kind of in total agreement with Lola Leitz. Again, shouts out to The Rage publication. It looks like, yes, there might be some compromise on the stablecoin yield aspect, but at what cost? And if we have seen any indication of where this is going, in particular, the Samurai Wallet case, it looks like privacy is probably going to be the one that gets metaphorically sacrificed here. So that's where all the, quote, regulatory clarity is at the current moment as of this weekend. Really, great timing with all the other stuff happening in the markets right now. So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm not holding my breath on this. I think maybe there should be some regulatory clarity, but at a certain point, I'm really been just like, just get out of our way, please. Just like, don't hurt us here. Just, and Operation Choke Point 2.0, just kind of like treat us like everything else. Let Bitcoin get out of the gate. I think it's already out of the gate. But I have a very huge concern about overregulation, which is where we are seeing the trend go. So that's the most latest update on the Clarity Act financial market markup bill. We got Brian Armstrong's take. We got Ellen O'Tarrett's take. We got the more hardcore Bitcoiner take on this. So current status right now, I'm sure we'll get some more information about that coming up soon. Next, we got another update, and I was going to cover these last week, but we had a lot of guests in the studio. You know, we were changing things up a little bit. So maybe if you're perpetually online, you're already familiar with this, but we do have another update on the Samurai Wallet Bitcoin that we still aren't so really sure where it is, but let's just cover that. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, guys, we're back. So I am going to rehash kind of the start, give you some context of the whole Samurai Wallet stuff that we were covering. Here is kind of the smoking gun. So Frank Corba, again, he is an official White House correspondent, White House reporter with BitMag. He works at Bitcoin Magazine. You guys know him, great Bitcoiner. He's on all of the Bitcoin conference streams, and now officially has the White House press pass. Anyways, he tweeted on the 5th of January, it seems that the SDNY/the DOJ has sold the Bitcoin that the Samurai devs paid as part of their plea deal, even though the executive order 14233 mandates that forfeited Bitcoin be held in the U.S.'s strategic Bitcoin reserve. And this wasn't the first time in the Samurai case that the SDNY acted in defiance of federal guidance. Now, we covered this when it happened, but we got Patrick Wilt, who is the President's Council of Advisory for Digital Assets. He, on January 5th, said, we are looking into this. And so everyone's like, okay, you know, we kind of gave our takes. I showed you that from what we're seeing, the on-chain data showed that it looked like the U.S. State Marshals sent that Bitcoin to Coinbase Prime, and there was no Bitcoin at that Coinbase address, which made everyone think that it looked like they sold their Bitcoin. though they said they'll look into this. And the most recent update, which happened on Friday, was Patrick Whitgo update. We have received confirmation from the DOJ that the digital assets forfeited by Samurai Wallet have not been liquidated and will not be liquidated per the president's executive order. They will remain on the U.S. government balance sheet as part of the SBR. So, you know, on the one hand, like the more hardcore Bitcoiners, like, you know, I kind of want them to sell the Bitcoin because this is the true separation of money and state. From the more pro strategic Bitcoin reserve, Bitcoin superpower of the world, I guess you're like, okay, you know, at least the powers that be, at least the people in positions are actually following the federal law. At least they are continuing to follow the executive order and not sell the Bitcoin. So I think as of this point, we do kind of have to take Patrick's word for it because we haven't really gotten, you know, we haven't gotten an address here. We can't actually pinpoint it on the blockchain. Anyways, Frank Corva responded with, why did the SDNY sign an asset liquidation agreement with the Samurai devs then, which was the smoking gun? The actual report we saw was this asset liquidation agreement, which made everyone kind of, you know, scratch their head and was like, okay, so they sold that Bitcoin. Interesting. And then he goes further, and why was the money sent to a Coinbase Prime address? Which, I mean, almost very clearly says that they sold the Bitcoin, right? Anyways, Frank Corva goes on, and he goes, it would be helpful to see the address at which the DOJ and the United States Marshal Service is holding these Bitcoin, as it seems strange that the Bitcoin was sent to what analysis showed to be the Coinbase Prime address soon after the DOJ signed an asset liquidation agreement with the Samurai devs. So again, from my perspective, it does look like a trust us bro moment. It looks like they got an update and they're like, hey, look, bro, trust us. We still got the Bitcoin, bro. Like, it's still with us. It's being added to the strategic Bitcoin reserve. From a more hardcore Bitcoiner, it's like, okay, everything that kind of points to the direction that it's sold is kind of telling us they sold the Bitcoin. So it is a moment where we may have to just trust the federal institution, trust the United States Marshal Services, trust Patrick that, okay, look, they got confirmation. They've been told they have the Bitcoin. We just kind of have to be like, okay, I guess we're trusting you on this, bro. Like, all right. My kind of takeaway on this, or rather my take on all of this is, obviously I'm working on the same information as you are. I'm looking at this recent update. Seems very suspicious. You know, on the one hand, I guess from a nation state perspective, you do want to see the U.S. take, or rather hold, all of the Bitcoin that they do confiscate. Obviously, in that kind of take, it does bring up the larger question of, is the most budget neutral way for the U.S. government to acquire Bitcoin to just do asset forfeitures, which is what they've been doing, which from an individual level doesn't really make me comfortable. It makes us look like we have targets on our backs for just being Bitcoiners. From the let's take him at his word level, it does seem like the strategic Bitcoin reserve is something that they're very serious about. I did see another headline, and let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I do have it in my notes somewhere, and I want to give you the exact headline. But it does seem like the U.S. government is very serious on actually acquiring Bitcoin for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Though, again, as of this point, it's kind of like, all right, is this good? Do we want this to happen? Oh, here we go. It was actually deleted, but there was a clip going around. This is what happened. It was a clip going around from allegedly a White House official. I can't pull it up for you because the source that I had was deleted. So it could be fake news. It could be an old rehashed, you know how Twitter works, an old rehashed clip that is now being kind of touted as being new. But it said, White House official just said buying Bitcoin is a top priority for the Trump administration. I think this might have been an old clip, which is why it got deleted. And look, I agree with this. I'm totally on this. Trust is for suckers. I am a Bitcoiner. You know, verify, don't trust. Hence why I am so skeptical about this. This has nothing to do with my, you know, lack of trust in the institutions. It's really about where is the Bitcoin? I don't have to trust you because of we have on-chain data. Just show us the address, bro. Now, of course, there is concerns about that. I could totally see why that's happening. Why they're kind of holding back on that information. But this is where we are. I don't want to be I'm just going to trust them and not verify, bro. But currently, this is a need to verify, don't trust moment. But as of now, all the information is essentially, hey, look, bro, we have this Bitcoin. It didn't get sold. You're going to have to trust us on this one. So again, 2 recent updates on stuff going on, or actually the whole show is just some updates on where we are currently. But on that note, CoinDad is in the house. So we are going to hit the transition and we will chat with CoinDad after the break.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Hive Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, Hive has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At Hive, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, guys, we are back in the stew, and we have CoinDad live with us here. So super excited for this, and he's got some show and tell for you guys. So hold on, before we go on, or we gotta hear. Hold on, maybe we start here because Nico's holding it. Okay, let's go here. All right, Nico, what is this, CoinDad? What do we got here?
This right here is the Mona Lisa of mining.
Okay.
When I have my Bitcoin Discovery Center running, this will be in the center, like with some lasers around it and some dry smoke coming out the bottom or something. I don't know, something cool. But historically, this is the first dedicated Bitcoin miner in the world. There's only 300 of them that were made from this batch. And it took me 4 years to find this. And I only know of 5 of them so far. And I got 2 out of the 5. And the other 3 people don't want to let theirs go. It's kind of like having Steve Jobs. Apple
okay,
computers.
let's put it right here. Let's put it right here on the desk.
You want a center?
Yeah, we'll have the centerpiece here while we go through. No, let's put it down with the fan. Or maybe that looks cool. Yeah, that might be a little big. Maybe like long ways. Maybe long ways. Like this.
That's a little too big.
Let's just do it like.
Because I got some other stuff here too.
Is that too big? That is too big. All right, never mind.
No,
We'll just pull it
that
off.
looks badass,
No,
bro.
it's too much. It's too much. Here we go. Here we go.
It blocks my boobs, so I'm
Yeah.
happy with it.
Okay, here we go. All right, and then also, guys,
I
if
got
you
this
guys,
too.
oh wait, look, actually, it's too big, dude. It's in my way.
All right.
Yeah, you gotta take it out. You gotta take it out. Okay, and then if
Appreciate
you
it,
guys
Nico.
know that, yeah, exactly. If you guys see the studio, this has also been donated by CoinDad. What is this exactly? What am I holding up here?
That's an ASIC miner V2 that's got 110 nanometer chips in it. So that is very old, and it was made by Frycat back in the day, who is somebody that actually disappeared with 140,000 Bitcoin in 2014, and nobody's heard from him since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy.
Okay. All right. What other goodies? You have a couple more goodies in here live.
Yeah. So USB sticks back in the day. This is just kind of a fun fact, but this is 2013 era. This is from Bitmain, and you used to be able to plug this into a laptop and mine Bitcoin during the era of 50 Bitcoin blocks. And if you equate this to today's S21 XP, or like a M66S from WhatsMiner, for example, is like 400 something terahash. You would need 1.2 million of these little things. Thank you, sir.
Amazing.
1.2 million of these. So that's the evolution of ASIC chips in the last couple of years. Oh my goodness, this is back in my hands. You using this?
Yeah, tell everybody.
What? So yeah. So basically, I had a few of these. These are Bitcoin logoed Zippo lighters that were custom made, and I posted it on eBay for sale, and I just did an auction, so I didn't put a price on it, just let it do its own thing. And Nico's actually the one that won it, and I had no idea.
Okay, let's go. All right, Nico's pulling another goodie here. What do we got here? What is this? What is this?
So this is Bitmain's first machine. This is the S1 Antminer. This is circa November 2013. And there was most of the ones come in yellow and green, but when you find one with a red and black, that's like the earliest batches. And on Bitcoin Talk, you used to be able to get these 30 at a time on auction. So like people were spending like 5-6 Bitcoin for one of these back in the day, and whoever wins the top 30 of the auction would get this miner right here. So that's how they initially started selling them.
Okay.
So it wasn't until like the S3 era that it was more commercialized, coming out and just selling large batches. So S1 and S2.
So you could literally
very
only
short.
buy it through a Bitcoin Talk forum auction.
And then people were like
Amazing.
nervous sending their money to China.
Yeah,
so they
I
don't know
wonder
who.
why. I wonder why.
Put this one.
Oh man, amazing. Okay,
All right, there we
is there
go.
more goodies, or we maxed out on goodies?
No,
here?
no, there's one
okay.
more
We got
here.
more goodies in here.
I'm getting nervous with this water around all this cool stuff.
Yeah, pull it over to the side.
Excuse me. So this right here is before ASICs. This is called a FPGA, and this was mining like 200 Bitcoin a day.
Really?
So this little thing took me several years to find, and the guy that made it made 900 of them. And the crazy part is that he showed me his transaction history, like in and out of his wallet, with a screenshot of what he was bringing in and out, and it was like 800 Bitcoin, 1,200 Bitcoin,
Wow.
700 Bitcoin.
Wait, that little thing?
His transaction account of him selling them and stuff.
Okay.
But the crazy part is that he got out in 2014, and he doesn't own any today, and he had like thousands of Bitcoin.
Amazing.
So there's actually quite a few stories like that in the past where people were in it for the moment with the Wild West, but they weren't in it to stick to the long run with the foundation of the value of Bitcoin. So it was just a money thing for some people. But
well, it really kind of a lot of people always say it's like, oh man, I really wish I found Bitcoin in like 2010 or something. And usually most Bitcoiners are like, yeah, you probably wouldn't have held that Bitcoin.
No.
Or like this story, like you probably might have not even stayed in Bitcoin now. And it's really kind of points to the idea of just Bitcoin now is so de-risk. And it's like, it's inevitable in most people's minds, but showing us this gear, it's like a lot of people were there in the beginning and they're nowhere to be found now.
Some people did hold, but it is psychologically very, very difficult unless you went to jail for a long time and got out.
A
12
force
years
hodl,
later.
force hodl.
Or, you get ready to sell your house and you find your own laptop up in the attic a decade later while you're cleaning up. And you're like, oh, let's see what's on here. because in the early days, Bitcoin didn't even have a price. Like I actually have a miner that's the oldest one in my museum now. That is a PC from roughly April 2010. Bitcoin didn't have a price, and the guy was playing a game called World of Warcraft, and he was like using PayPal to buy weapons for the game with people in Asia. PayPal started screwing with him to where they cut his account or something. I don't know the details there, but somebody in Asia was like, well, why don't you mine Bitcoin and send us Bitcoin? He's like, what the heck is that? So he went on Newegg.
Okay. Newegg. Yep.
He showed me his list of all the parts that he purchased to build this top of the line computer from that era, and started mining like 800 Bitcoin a day or something like that in the early days. So he literally spent like 1,200 Bitcoin for a weapon on World of Warcraft because he was just gaming. And there was no price to it. So, and he didn't hold any from then.
Wow. I'm guessing. Are you still in contact with some of these people?
I am. Some of them do want to stay anonymous.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, do they have like regrets? Are they like, man, I should have held all of that Bitcoin?
One of them started crying because it's like he's kind of forgot over 10 years, and he has a day job working for a 9-to-5, and it's kind of sad in a way to hear these stories.
Yeah.
But then because I'm a historian, I kind of have to show proof of history, POH instead of POW, because I can't just take your word for it. You have to show some evidence that what you're telling me is real. So he showed me that proof of the screenshot from his account of all the stuff going through with the miner that he donated. And I know that it has to be a real story because he didn't want no money for the PC. He didn't want no recognition. He's just staying anonymous. So it's not like somebody is trying to grab attention,
get the glory or whatever.
Right.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't know if this is putting you too much on the spot here, but not only is this history, but it seems like you're like, I don't want to spill water on it. So I'm guessing it's a significant financial investment for you to get these products.
Yes.
Just to have them here. Like, it takes a lot. And Nico bought two, apparently.
Yeah. Shout out to Nico for supporting the museum. But over the years, it's been a lot of searching and communicating. A lot of the conferences help because OGs will come see my museum. Then they see everything and they're like, I got something you don't have. And then we connect, and then we either come up with a Bitcoin price or US dollar price, but some of them just don't care. And they're like, I love what you're doing. Here you go. You can have this. So it's various different reasons why I got this collection so big now. But I'm up to 136 different Bitcoin mining machines. So I'm roughly at maybe 80% of all the miners ever made in history is in my collection now.
Wow.
It's kind of almost impossible. I would say it's impossible at this point to duplicate what I've created because I also have 1-for-1s and prototypes, and you cannot replace those.
Okay. So what, it's like a Pareto principle, but like what is stopping you from getting the other 20%? Is it you can't find them? Is it a financial thing?
No, it's the fact that the community has to tell me about them because I don't know what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So if you see something on my website, if you have something that you don't see on my website, then I need it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can do right now.
All right. Perfect. Love to see it. All right. Well, I do want to transition, unless you want to add one more thing to this, but I do want to transition to your latest adventure.
Okay.
And here, let me see. What can you guys see this? We got the Bitcoin Discovery Center. It won't see it over there. But you open a nonprofit and you have a physical location. So let's talk about that.
So when I go to these mining conferences, like just proof of work on my part is like my Suburban. I bought a brand new 3 years ago. And right now, it just hit 104,000 miles on it.
Okay.
So that should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah.
But I came down with my trailer to a conference, and on I-95, I hit a big pothole, and the leaf spring broke, and miners fell off the shelves, and I broke one of them. And luckily, it's one that I could replace, but that's what got my wheels rolling in my head about, okay, it's time for a brick and mortar. It's time to preserve this history. Like nobody in the world is got a collection this big. And if like we're dealing with supposedly here with the biggest thing since sliced bread, right? With a financial network with Bitcoin around the world. But if we don't preserve the history, then how can we educate future generations about it? You know, 100%. Steve Jobs' Apple computer from his garage, he only made like 200 of them. And what Nico brought over here earlier, that black one, that's the Avalon one, that's the world's first dedicated miner. So that's equivalent to like Steve Jobs' Apple computer from his garage, but for Bitcoin. And these places, we need a home now. And I've done all the legwork. I've done all the, I mean, nonprofit, 30,000 square foot facility, 20 minutes away from Dallas Airport, 110 parking spots outside. We want to do an event center out of it. It'll be an art gallery, my museum. Then Professor Kelly from New York. He's the first professor in the U.S. that started a 2-year Bitcoin blockchain course where like 100 students just graduated after 2 years. And he's kind of got his hands tied up there in New York with the bureaucracy. So he's joining our team as the director of education. And we're going to build a classroom for him in the back right corner. And I want to build relationships with the school systems, private or public, and see school buses coming through with high school kids where the hashtorians is what I call them, not historians, walk them through. I even like the idea of maybe getting an Elon Musk Optimus Prime with like Satoshi's mask on his face, and then he's the one educating all
and
the
he's
students.
just walking around.
Yeah, because he's so knowledgeable with AI and everything's in his head already. So I'm human. I still forget stuff. So that would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
But then we'll have a storefront. So when the regular public swings through, I want to first show like a wall of the history of money and Jekyll Island in 1913, and you know how everything started and how it's a melting ice cube, and then lead into the history of Bitcoin. Then you go into the classroom, get educated more with Q&A in there with the professor, and after 2-3 hours, the students come out and they actually have like a real Bitcoin Discovery Center certificate for being orange pilled to take back home with them. And a part of all this is shout out to James from ACS, because he's the one that is giving us the facility to use this, to do this. He's also part of the nonprofit as the director. And on the other side of the wall is a 100,000 square foot facility with tens of thousands of miners being repaired, technicians all over the place, chip level repair, troubleshooting. They're building the BitAxe Touch in there from the ground up. So got a whole manufacturing line for BitAxes. And we're going to incorporate the education side along with him for doing internships and possibly even working on the first training program for like, you know, when you become a mechanic, you have to go to ASE certification and get certified to do something like that, but for the Bitcoin mining space.
Okay, awesome. Hold on. I think I need to pull this off because it's I think it's focusing on this. Wait, put your hand up there, just towards the camera, like lean up front. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah, maybe Nico, will you look at this? There we go. We're good. Okay, sorry about that. I think it was focusing on all the goodies up there.
Okay,
but yeah, don't let me stop you. Don't let me stop. Actually, to clarify, people can't see this flyer here, but you did just mention it looks like it's already open. Is it open to the public? Not yet. You have the building.
I got the building.
Okay.
We got the nonprofit. I got the guts with all my miners to put in there. But where we're at now is where we need the community's help to build out the inside. So the whole like 10-foot walls and painting the place and new lights and the office space area, the classroom needs to be built. Like display boxes, there's like 75 to 80 different display boxes that we have to build to put some of these miners in to protect them. But I'm hoping that if we get the money in to finish the place, that we can open up by the summer of this year and have an orange ribbon cutting ceremony.
Okay.
Adam Back officially endorsed us. Luke Dash Jr. officially endorsed us. Charlie Shrem officially endorsed us. So they're on the website as official endorsements. Waiting for a couple of more to respond. But yeah, I mean, it's time for a Smithsonian for the Bitcoin community.
Love it. I love it. Smithsonian for the Bitcoin mining history here. But since you're here, Coin Dad, let's do a live call of action or call to action here. How can people help you out? How can people donate? You know, where are you currently? All that stuff. Like talk directly to the camera, directly to the people out there, and do the call to action of we need the audience's help.
Okay. Well, I'm on this tour right now doing several different podcasts for 10 days to help promote the Bitcoin Discovery Center in Dallas, Texas. Actually, we've already received a $25,000 donation on the first day, and today another $75,000. So we're at $100,000. We need to get to $750,000 to help build the place out, but the goal is to get to $2 million by the end of the year at least, to have the overhead, because James has been gracious enough to give us some months free while we're building this place. So I don't owe the rent, but the rent is $25,000 a month to stay in there. And that doesn't include the staff salaries, the internet bill, the electricity bill, and all that other good stuff. So I want to see this thing get up and running. Like I said, I've done all the legwork, which is pretty much the hardest part. But from here on out, I need the community's help. And, you know, if anybody like on the Jack Dorsey level or something is interested in contributing back to the community to preserve Bitcoin history, then I do have naming rights right now. So anybody that contributes $50,000, what I'm doing is 2 foot by 2 foot blocks cemented into the ground of the museum for the life of the museum by block height with your name or company logo. So that way, anybody that walks in and out constantly will always see who helped build this place up from the early days. Then there's also larger stuff, like $250,000. On the left side, I want to do like 100-inch TV screen monitors that are upright, that are paying homage to the early OGs, and I call it the Pioneer Wall, and it'll be in rotation to Hal Finney and Adam Back and the early OGs with their bio and what they contributed to the community, so that way people stay educated about the early pioneers. But in there, we can throw in, you know, Marathon or Clean Spark or Riot or any Pubco that wants to get involved, and which I think is also great optics, because we're neutral. We're not a shitcoin, you know, we're not anything negative for you to promote. So it's a great optics for any of the shareholders and followers or whatever on you contributing back instead of giving your money to Uncle Sam.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Coin Dad, how can people actually donate?
We accept Bitcoin and US dollars on bitcoindiscoverycenter.com. The buttons are live. Through Square, we're doing US dollars, and through BTC Pay Server, we're doing Bitcoin. Another thing that I'm looking at and talking to the directors of the nonprofit with is that once we get this thing up and running, some of the funds coming in will be from events, because it's also going to be an event center. So I'm doing like display cases that are movable. So if, let's just say, you go to Bitcoin conference and you fall in love with another Bitcoiner and y'all want to have a Bitcoin themed wedding, you can rent my place out on a Saturday surrounded by the history of Bitcoin, because I'm building a little stage there as well, and it's going to hold Fire Marshal hasn't obviously done the final count, but AI with what we're putting in there should be able to fit around 400 people to do events. So any conference coming through Dallas, they can do side events for some whale cocktail party, or Michael Saylor can do his quarterly C-suite meetings in there privately, or even one other big thing is Bitcoin is not something you can touch or see, right? So my museum is literally the only tangible part of the Bitcoin blockchain that you can physically touch and see. So I've seen many people on the fence about Bitcoin come to these conferences that I'm going to with my museum that see a chronological order of 16, 17 years of history, and they have a oh shit moment like, okay, it's undeniable now. This is not fake. This is real. It's like, how do I just come up with 16 years of history in your face if it's fake, you know? So having politicians come in to the center, we can do a politician training certification course for them or something, and the schools, and it's going to be the world's first one-of-a-kind center.
Love it, man. Amazing. Amazing. So audience, a Simply Bitcoin family over here, if you can support Coin Dad, definitely go to his website, bitcoindiscoverycenter.com. I mean, me touching this stuff, like, I've had I used to touch pause. You had the S9s in here, right, back in the day. So I lifted those, but I've been to the museum at the conferences, and it's usually like, don't touch the stuff. But man, they're so much heavier than I actually thought they were. The S9, I didn't feel this heavy. That big ass thing you brought in, what was it again?
Avalon 1.
Yeah, that thing is massive. That thing is. Imagine just having those all in your house, having to move them again, or in whatever, a warehouse.
That's why they're so scarce, though, because when they got shipped from China, they've broken shipping some of them, and then when the price of Bitcoin went down in the early days. In 2014 was like one of the first big major dumps. Then they were worthless, so a lot of people threw them away. But the story behind how I even got this is mind-blowing. So a lot of OGs in the space know that I'm looking for one for a while, and I kept, you know, harassing everybody basically. And then I'm at the time I'm building my home with my wife, so I'm living in an RV, like a one-room little RV, like we're smelling each other's farts every day. It's like couldn't wait to get out of there. But anyway, I'm in there. we're in there, and on it was April Fool's. And I get a message on Telegram, no profile, no photo, no nothing. Like it's a new Telegram account saying, "Hey, I got an Avalon 1. You interested?" I'm like, bullshit. You know, I don't believe you. And so it's April Fool's. So I'm thinking one of the OGs is screwing with me. And then I told him, I'm like, if you're serious, I want you to put it on a chair and do a 360-degree video and send me the clip, like in the next 30 minutes. 20 minutes later, freaking downloading. And I'm sitting there watching this guy walk around this freaking Avalon. And then I seen that he's real. So then I asked him, like, how did you even find it? He is a vintage Apple computer guru that's like older than me, that was in Sweden in a small town repairing stuff just for a hobby. And he'd go to yard sales looking for old vintage computers and ran across this for $10.
Wow.
Then he opened it at home and realized it has nothing to do with freaking Apple computers. And like, what the hell is this crap? So he put it away for like 5 years. Then he went back in that room 5 years later, I guess to clean up or something, and ran across it, went on online, and he figured out it's a Bitcoin miner. So he put in 2 words, Bitcoin museum, because he knows it's old. My museum website pops up. And the only way to get a hold of me on there says Telegram. He's like, what the hell is Telegram? So he downloads Telegram to tell me that one freaking message that he's got this thing. Then he didn't know shit about Bitcoin. So I orange pilled him through Telegram over a 4-day period. And I've realized that Sweden has Coinbase. So I got him to download Coinbase. And then we agreed on a price 4 days later. And I paid him in Bitcoin. And sure enough, DHL showed up 2 weeks later with this thing at my house.
Amazing. Amazing. Guy wasn't even a Bitcoiner, just grabbed it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
Wow. That is actually a crazy story. That is nuts.
I have quite a few.
Well, you want to do one more, and then we're going to do last CTA from CoinDad, last message to the audience. So throw one more crazy story about how this museum came about, and then we'll wrap up today's show.
So the guy that made this right here, first of all, ironically, the other day I was in Naples and I was in a podcast with Natalie Brunell and Luke Dash Jr. and Dr. Sean Baker and Matty Ice and Madison. And we just had a powwow for 45 minutes. And I had this, and come to find out, Luke's sitting on the other side of the table from me. He's the one that wrote the software for this. And this is over 12 years ago.
Amazing.
It's like, what the freaking heck, man? And the guy that made this, though, he made 900 of them. So this is before ASICs. This is a FPGA. It's called a quad miner. And each one of these is only 250 mega hash. So all of it is just 1 giga hash. And this used to mine like 200 Bitcoin a day. And
crazy.
I found the guy and finally got reached out to him, and we spoke for a little bit. He let me interview him anonymously. And he had 2 of them, one prototype and this one. And then we agreed on the price. But then I was a little puzzled, like, why is an OG this early asking me for Bitcoin for the other one?
Yeah. And
come to find out, and he got out. He didn't take it seriously. And he's clocking in at a 9 to 5 today, even though he was doing some major stuff with this back in the day, in and out of his account with a lot of Bitcoin.
Wow. Lesson there, guys. Lesson there, to say the least. Wow. I mean, in today's terms, wait, hold it up one more time. This little thing
this one.
No, the quad.
Okay.
That thing mined 200 Bitcoin a day. What would be the equivalent today? How many ASICs would you have to have plugged in at one time to equivalent what that would do?
How many bit axes?
What?
I don't even know what a bit axe is.
1 terahash is what? 1,000 gigahash. So you need
a lot,
right? So you need 1,000 of these for one little bitax.
That's crazy.
And for these, you need 1.2 million of them to equal today's miner.
That's
like you could
insane.
fill up this entire studio stacked up with these little USB sticks to equal one of today's miners.
That's nuts. Oh
crazy.
my gosh. Yeah, what a trip. What a trip.
Man, so the efficiency because of the chips, like the Avalon that we just showed down there, is 110 nanometer. And we're well, that's the S1.
Oh, the other one.
The other big one that Nico had.
Okay.
But the oldest one, actually, yours back there has the chips of 130 nanometer. Okay. So that's there's
breaking the studio. We're breaking the studio right now. Here, hold it up and tell them.
So the BE100 chips are on here, and they're made by a guy named Fried Cat. And Fried Cat was kind of like a Vitalik Buterin from China that was super smart, and he designed the chip, but he was self-mining. And then he sold on Bitcoin Talk, he was selling the hash from his mining site where he was mining with these before he went public with them, excuse me. So Avalon 1 from Canaan has credibility for being the first to market, but this one is unofficially first, but it did not go to market. So this was just selling hash. So the BE100 chips, I mean, from 130 to today's, where we at 3 nanometer now with the, I think with the WhatsMiner M66S server rack was like 470 terahash now. It's like mind-blowing the efficiency of how we have evolved in 12 years. So, I mean, compare that to the brick and mortar banks. They still look the same. They're still the same building there for 12 freaking years. Air conditioning unit, teller at the front, people pulling their stupid checkbooks out, which make me throw up my mouth when I see them now. But you got the maintenance guys washing the windows. Like the energy it takes to run the 53,000 branches around the United States of America is way more than what we're doing with Bitcoin mining energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Coin Dad. To wrap up the show, let's do a final call to action. One last call to the audience to help out the Bitcoin Discovery Center being built in Dallas, Texas. So again, look at the camera, talk directly to the audience, tell them how they can support you.
BitcoinDiscoveryCenter.com. I don't care if you just sacrifice a Chick-fil-A meal today for $20. Anything helps. As soon as I'm done with this tour, I'm going home to kiss my wife, 24 hours, wash my underwear, repack, and I'm taking my GC and his best guy with him, with me to drive all the way to Dallas. And that first $100,000 that we just got from Bryce, so shout out to OG Bryce from 2010. He's our senior advisor too for the center. His money of initial contribution of $100,000 is already going to help with painting the place and starting to build some of these separation walls in this facility. So I'm gonna be up on the ladder with my own paintbrush to go and show proof of work right away with this money as soon as this tour is done, because I want to show the community that this is for real. I'm not posting no AI generated images of what it's going to look like, because I want to show realness.
Let's go. Well, Coin Dad, thanks so much for coming in, sharing the history with me. Let me hold these ASICs, or rather, these mining rigs. They weren't even ASICs yet, but man.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you, man. Good to have you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Nico.
Let's go. All right, guys. Well, there we go. Another episode of Simply Bitcoin. It is the Monday show. Again, guys, remember, it is Davos this week, so we are probably going to get a lot of news for you guys. We'll be kind of recapping a lot of the stuff that goes on at these events. We get some good clips. We're going to definitely show them to you guys. So also, again, like I said, maybe be prepared for some volatility today. But on that note, make sure you get outside, eat some good food, get some sun, call your mom and your dad, all that good stuff. I will see you tomorrow. Nico will be back tomorrow. On that note, peace out, guys.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.